Yo, peace was good. Welcome to another installment of Introduction. It's been 8 years since I did one. I want to give a big shout out to my brother Patrick Meir, who's on Facebook, who follows me on Facebook. Good friend of mine. I've known him since 2016. So he kind of inspired the idea. When would you be able to do a breakdown of Gang Starr, do a review on their albums? I was like, you know what, that's not a bad idea. It's because Gang Starr is definitely one of my favorite groups, and Gang Starr basically made me fans of hip hop, and I'll explain later on in the video why. So shout out to him, shout out to Patrick for inspiring this idea. And then I did do introduction videos years ago. Like I said before, today actually made a playlist. So you guys can check the back catalog. If you go to on my channel, go to playlist, you'll see introduction, and you'll see all of them shits. So I have to do more. Just like I said, I've been more busy with doing music and beat videos and reviews and the podcast with Speaking Cloud, that kind of thing. So now let's get into Gang Starr. Gang Starr, which consists of two core members, the main members, which include the late great Guru, gifted unlimited rhymes universal, rest in peace to him, aka Keefe E at one point back in the 80s, and you got the Waxmaster C, aka DJ Premier or Primo, or anybody you guys know the aliases and stuff like that from them too. Ballhead Slick and all that, with Guru and all that. So now we have to get to the foundation, how it all started. So Gang Starr, they were founded, they formed back in '86. Guru went to Morehouse in Atlanta, which is like a HBSCU, which is a historically black college, that kind of thing. And his name was originally called Keefe E, and there was a couple other people that was original members of Gang Starr. This is before Primo had jumped ship. The members of the group at the time was Guru, Big Shug, his brother Suave D, Damo D Ski, and DJ Wanna Be Down. Those were the members of Gang Starr. So in '87, they had put out two 12-inch singles, which is called The Lesson and Believe That. Those were the 12-inch singles. I believe the Lesson, I believe that was produced by, I think, Donald D. Not to be confused with Donald D from Rhyme Syndicate. Not that Donald D, is a different Donald D. And I think around that time, rest in peace to another legendary producer who does not get a lot of shine, 45 King, had his hands in the production as well. And then in '88, they dropped Movin On, which I believe is also produced by 45 King. Since then, Suave D and Damo Ski had left the group because they were just they weren't making any money from those singles, and they were kind of antsy, that kind of thing. I think one of them had went to the Navy and that kind of thing. He left with that kind of thing. So time waits for no man. So Guru, he had to find another producer to kind of make it stop. And he had 45 King, but 45 King was doing his own thing, and then he was working with Kim Shabazz and people like that. So he didn't really have time to do that. Fast forward to 1989, a very young DJ Premier, when he was known as Waxmaster C, he was because at the time Gang Starr, they was signed with Wild Pitch, but then how Primo and Guru joined forces was that Primo was sending beat tapes to Wild Pitch, And then Guru liked the beats. He heard those beat tapes, and he wanted him, like, he liked the beats. Contacted Primo, shipped them over to New York, and the rest is history. And then you guys heard that story how Primo, pretty sure in interviews that he said that like he had a pickup truck, he had a whole bunch of records, and he drove from all the way from Houston to Prairie View, which is like a suburb of Houston, Texas, all the way to New York. And then he said like during his travels, he went through a rainstorm, like a big storm, and some of his records got destroyed from the rain, so that kind of thing. So which I thought was pretty interesting. So, and then next thing you know, they've joined forces, and then they end up linking up, and then they end up getting recording the album No More Mr. Nice Guy, which came out in 1989. Known for the singles Words I Manifest and Positivity. Those are the two singles of the album. Standout tracks for me, I'm gonna have to go with Premier and the Guru, Got You, Manifest, Gusto, Manifest Remix, Two Steps Ahead, No More Mr. Nice Guy, and Knowledge. Those are like the standout tracks for me. So the version I have the 2001 reissue, because in the reissue it has the songs The Lessons, and I believe it has if I'm not mistaken, it has the songs Here's the Proof, The Lesson, The Dedication, which were not on their OG, because the 2001 reissue has 17 songs. The OG has 14 tracks. Those are like that's a little difference too. To be real with you, with No More Mr. Nice Guy, it's not my favorite album. I feel like it is an underrated album. When it came to the production, Primo said in the interview that was like a group effort. That was him, Guru, 45 King, just doing their thing, like just kind of like helping each other out with the. God damn, it's fucking that. Sorry about that. Just doing their thing on the record, because like they didn't know anything about music production as far as like Guru and Primo. So they were just like, it was like trial and error, and that's the kind of thing. So that was 1989. Now we're gonna move on to 1990. In 1990, they came out with two singles. One which ended up being on the next song, which I'll mention. But there was a movie called Mo Better Blues that came out, I think, in 1989 and 1990. I want to say 1990. In the soundtrack, they made a song called Jazz Thing. So with that, the whole premise of that song was that Chrysalis, who they got signed to, they wanted them to rap about jazz musicians, like kind of the origin of jazz and the jazz musicians. So they did that one song, Jazz Thing. There was a video for that, and that song was actually featured on the Full Clip compilation album that came out in '99, which I'm gonna definitely talk about too, because that definitely is important. And then that same year they had dropped a song called Just to Get a Rep, which ended up being a single for the next album that I'm gonna mention. Now we move on to 1991, and then we're gonna go with the second album, Step in the Arena. In my personal opinion, this is like a step up compared to No More Mr. Nice Guy. Great album. It's actually my fourth favorite album. Love that album. Known for the singles Just Get a Rep, Take a Rest, Love Sick, self-titled track Step in the Arena, and Who's Gonna Take It Away, which they all have videos for. Excuse me. Standout tracks for me, I'm about to go with Step in the Arena, Who's Gonna Take the Weight, Check the Technique, Take a Rest, Just Get a Rep, Precisely the Right Rhymes, and Making of the Name. Yeah, great song, great album. If you go on YouTube, I'll probably post it in the description box. It's like I usually like to do. They talk about, it's like the EPK, it's like which stands for the Electric Press Kit, which they pretty much talk about like the making of the album. It's kind of like a promotional tool that they would do, like record labels would like to do, to kind of introduce like what they're working on the album, and like do the making and that kind of thing. So pretty much to promote the upcoming album that they're working on. So that's pretty cool. It's something that you don't really see too many people do anymore, which is sad. My only gripe with Step in the Arena, I feel like it needs a strong remastered. The mixing could have been a little bit better because you gotta remember the equipment they were using at the time. I think this was before he was using the MPC 60. I don't think he got into the MPC 60 up until like Hard to Earn, because I think at the time he was using the Lisa's SR16, and and I forgot to mention too on No One Mr. Nice Guy. He was also using the SP12 Turbo, so I had to throw it out there as well. So yeah, the mixing was kind of, I mean, it was analog, so they were using analog equipment. So, and you gotta remember too, like, CDs weren't like as popular, at that time period, because having a CD at that time, that was considered like, yo, you're rich, you rich, because it was all about cassettes, and then the people were all about cassettes, having a nice dope ride, and you playing that shit in your system with the cassette, playing your car, that kind of thing. So that's what it was, geared for. And because cassettes never really had the best quality in the world, but I think that's what kind of gives cassettes its charm, if you will. But that's what it is. But that album definitely needs definitely a big remaster. And that's very common with a lot of late 80s, early 90s releases, especially when it came to hip hop. So, and then like if you look at certain albums, it will say recorded with analog, recording analog recording, that kind of thing. So, yeah, getting back to Step in Arena, yeah, dope album, underrated in my opinion. Great album in my opinion. It's my fourth favorite album for that. Now we're gonna get into 1992. 1992 to me was a very special year for Gang Starr. Before they dropped their Daily Operation album, they had dropped two singles, DWYCK and Gotta Get Over, Taking Loot, which DWYCK, I'll mention later on, but Gotta Get Over, Taking Loot was featured on the Trespass soundtrack, which is a dope soundtrack, very, very dope. So that's the original version of Gotta Get Up. There's two versions. So the Gotta Get Over, Taking Loot, the one that's on the soundtrack, that version was produced by Primo and Guru. And then there's a Lost Professor remix. I'm gonna be real with you, I prefer the Lost Professor remix. That is it has a way better beat in my personal opinion. It's very rugged. That should have been the original beat. That's just my personal opinion. Now they take away from the original's dope, but I think the Lost Professor kind of reigns supreme in my personal opinion. It has a better beat. The drums hit. It's just so dope. Alright, now 1992, we get with Daily Operation. This is my second favorite Gang Starr album, and this is the album. Well, particularly, let me get into the singles, and I'll tell you why. So, S Girl to Next Girl, Take It Personal, Too Deep. Those are the three singles of the album. So the song, particularly Take It Personal, that's a song that got me into hip hop. That really made me become a fan of hip hop. And because of that song, it made me love hip hop, and I've been a fan since. So that was 1992. I was 5 years old, man. So that's a song that really got me into that. And I used to hear that song a lot in the radio. And back then, artists like Gang Starr, Tribe Called Quest, people like that, they were considered commercial. They were considered, for that time period, they were considered commercial. You know what I mean? Brand Nubian, all that. The whole conscious, KRS-One and all, Boogie Down. Well, he was Boogie Down Productions. He wasn't in KRS-One solo until like 93, but that's a whole different build. That was considered commercial. You know what I mean? And yeah, and get into Daily Operation. For me, the standout tracks, man, the Place We Dwell, where he raps Brooklyn to the fullest, man. You can't get more Brooklyn than that song right there. Flip the Script. The remix to Flip the Script is dope. S Girl to Next Girl, fucking love that joint. The remix for that as well is dope as well. Soliloquy of Chaos, I'm the Man, 92 Interlude, which ended up being Yes Yes Y'all with Heavy D and the Boys off the album The Blue Funk that came out that same year in 1992. That was another dope. That's one of my favorite albums from Heavy D. Rest in peace to him. Take It Personal, of course. Too Deep, No Shame in My Game, Conspiracy, fucking dope song. I think every black person should listen to that. Especially if you live in America, you need to listen to that song Conspiracy. I'm not gonna get into it. You should listen to that. BYS, Bust Your Shit, Take Two and Pass, and Stay Tuned. Those are the standout tracks for me. Unfortunately, with this album, this is another album that definitely needs a remaster. Again, I spoke about it with Step in the Arena. It's again, people were focused on the tapes. It wasn't so much the CDs, because CDs, I would assume, were not as popular up until like the mid 90s. I was like roughly like around 90, maybe around that time, like 92 to 93. Case in point with Dr. Dre's The Chronic and Doggy Style, which I think those are some of the best mixed hip hop albums in hip hop history. To the point where like you could play the music loud and you won't get it distorted. You won't get it. If you do a test, listen to Doggy Style and The Chronic, and you put the volume all the way up. It's clean. It doesn't matter how loud you have it. It sounds clean. That's how dope they do with the mixing. Every other album you listen to, you're gonna get like some form of distortion. So that's the genius with Dr. Dre. You know what I'm saying? So that's enough. Oh, and DWYCK again was recorded in 1992. DWYCK was supposed to be on Daily Operation, but it didn't make the album. It ended up being on Hard to Earn. So that's why I threw that out there. So yeah, and I've heard people tell me like they would have preferred DWYCK to be on Daily Operation. Me personally, I don't feel like it would have fit on that album, just because the whole vibe of Daily Operation. I don't think it would have fit on Daily Operation. That's just me personally. I think it fits more on Hard to Earn, even though that's an older song from '92. But to me, with Hard to Earn, how rugged that I'll talk about that later on. But how rugged Hard to Earn is, for sure. But definitely Daily Operation is my second favorite album from Gang Starr. Now we're gonna go to 1993. Now Guru decides, he got tired of like the stereotype of Gang Starr being like a jazz rap group, and that's another thing too I forgot to mention too. With Step in the Arena, Chrysalis wanted them to make more songs like Jazz Thing. And they were like, nah, fuck that. We're gonna talk about the street shit. So with Jazzmatazz Volume 1, the experimental fusion of hip hop and jazz, it's another great album right there. That was pretty much like how I felt like it was kind of like his way of telling people like, shut up, like, you want more jazz joints? This is what you're gonna get. And he did that. So this was kind of like a jazz fusion, no samples, just like live instrumentation. He got with the likes of the late great Donald Byrd, Grandson Marcellus, and people like that. They actually lived in Branford Marcellus' crib throughout their career, like in the early '90s. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Let me get a drink of water. Yeah. So getting back to Jazzmatazz Volume 1, dope album. Known for the singles Trust Me. Singles Trust Me, No Time to Play, Loungin', Le Bien Le Mal. Those are the singles of the album. That Le Bien Le Mal, features MC Solar. He had dropped the album a year later called Prose Combat. I think that's how you pronounce it. So my French is not that good, so I think that's how you pronounce it. But getting back to that, for me, standout tracks: Loungin', Transit Ride, Down the Back Streets. That's like my favorite song. I love that. I wish there was a video for that. Down the Back Streets. Trust Me, Le Bien Le Mal, and Sights in the Sea. These are the standout tracks. Very dope album. As jazzy as you can get right there. Alright, so that's 1993. Now we're gonna go to 1994. 1994, they dropped which I consider to be their best album. It's my favorite album from Gang Starr. Hard to Earn. I fucking love everything about the album. I just love the stripped down production on this album. The beats were like sparse. It was like stripped down, raw, gritty, abstract, but like hard at the same time. I just love the title. It just sounded so dope, and it kind of fits. Based on the production on that album, if the title fits the album, that makes sense. I mean, everything about the album is dope. From the intro, I mean, intro, A Long Way to Go, Brainstorm, Code of the Streets, Tons of Guns, Speaker Cloud. Shout out to Speaker Cloud. Shout out to Ricardo. Shout out to Mike. Shout out to Ross Hartley. And shout out to our supporters, man, for the Speaker Cloud podcast. So Mike says he was the brainchild that thought of the name of the podcast, and he named it after that. So thank that brother for that. They got Words from the Nutcracker, which is kind of like a freestyle from Nutcracker, Malachi the Nutcracker, from the group Home. Mass Appeal, Sucking These Bodyguards, Now Your Mind, which, funny enough, that song was recorded in '92 for the White Man Can't Jump soundtrack. So that was another dope joint too. Mostly the voice, fucking love that. FALA, Fuck Around, Lay Around, Do or Die, fucking love that joint. And Comfort That Ass. Those to me the standout tracks. Singles off the album, like I mentioned, DWYCK, which I mentioned was supposed to be on Daily Operation, but didn't make the cut. Mass Appeal, Call the Streets, and Sucking Bodyguards, where they all have videos for. Love that album, just love everything about it. Just my favorite album from Gang Starr. To me, it's the best album, so that's just my personal opinion. Now, we're going to get into 1995. 1995, we're going to get into Guru's second solo album, the second installment of the Jazzmatazz series, Jazzmatazz Volume 2, The New Reality. Fucking love this album, love it, dope album. This album's a little bit different from the first album. This album, you can tell that they incorporated samples with live instrumentation, and Guru, you know, he was like doing his own thing on the production. A lot of the stuff he did most of the good chunk of the album on the production. He had some help. He had like Carlos Best did a couple joints. True Master, True Master. A part of the Wu Elements. At one point, he was affiliated with Gang Starr. I don't think a lot of people know that. I think people know that now, but I think back then people didn't really know. Known for the singles "Watch What You Say," "Feel the Music," and "Lifesaver." Those are the singles of the album. Standout tracks for me, "Lifesaver," "Looking Through Darkness," dope shit right there. Watch What You Say," "Medicine," "Lost Souls," "Nobody Knows," "Respect the Architect," dope joint right there. "Feel the Music," "Young Ladies," "The Traveler," "Maintain Focus," "Count Your Blessings," "Choice of Weapons." Oh my god, I fucking love that joint right there. Something in the Past, and Revelations. Those are like the standout tracks for me. Underrated album. I love the album. So there's two covers for the album. So the first one was the US version. You'll see where you see him like kind of shirtless. He's in a background with some shades on, just looking at the looking at the cover, that kind of thing. And then he has another one which is like the UK pressing, where you see him. He's like in a top hat and like a suit, like a jazz suit, and he has like a nice car. You know what I'm saying? He has a nice like 60s car like in the background, just laying on it, and it's really dope. That's the version I have. I prefer that cover. To me, kind of fits the mood of the album. That's just my personal opinion. The album did get like mixed reviews compared to the first album. Like I said, I think it was mostly due to the production that people were kind of at odds with. You know what I mean? Because Guru is not really the best producer in the world. You know, he's not no primo, but he has his moments. You know, that kind of thing. I just like the raw approach that he has with his production. And so right after Jazzmatazz Volume 2, then he ended up dropping a compilation album called Guru Presents Ill Kid Records, released the same year. Then the album came like in the fall of 1995. The Jazzmatazz Volume 2 came out like I think in the summertime of that year. And, Ill Kid Records which was Guru's record label at one point. It was like a very short-lived record label. So with that album, he had pretty much the whole point of the album was like to put people on to artists that he found, and to kind of hopefully people could discover, and they could put out more stuff like the likes of Bahamadia, Operation Ratification, which ended up being NYG's, Forbidden, True Master, Group Home, Baby, Big Shug, people like that. That was on the album. There were those notable singles. There was a song by Bahamadia called Wordplay, which ended up being on the Collage album. So I definitely was part of that, and it was pretty cool because that song ended up being on the Collage album. But there was a song, Come Clean with J. Rita Damager, which I feel like made no sense to put it on the album because it was already on the Sunrise in the East album. But I think they did that to, I guess, sell more records, so the album gets sell more records, that kind of thing. But yeah, underrated album, man. Really, really dope. I love the grittiness, love the dark production of the album. Guru again did most of the production of the album. I love the production on it, just dark and gritty and stripped down. Standout tracks: the Ill Kid intro, Life, Do a Page, which was like a big Suge solo track, Victim of Society, that was dope. Who's the Truest, which there is a video for. I'll probably post that in just in the description box, but True Master had put it out a couple years back, so I'm glad he put it out. It's one of my favorite songs of the album. Rotten Apple, High Energy, fucking love that joint. Attack, and So-Called Friends. That was by Group Home, that was produced by Guru. But yeah, dope album. It's not an album that I really hear too many people talk about. I don't think a lot of people know about that album. Unless you look at, like, you're a core fan of, Gangstar, that kind of thing. But yes, it's kind of a hard album to find, but it's like relatively cheap. So if you go digging online, you can find it for relatively cheap. So yeah, Guru presents Ill Kid Records, released in 1995. Now, fast forward to 1997. The reason I mention this because DJ Premier, he had dropped a compilation album called New York Reality Check 101. So that is more like a mixtape, it's a compilation album. Pretty much introducing like underground artists that was popping at the time, in the 12-inch, in the underground world with the Stretch and Barbados and that kind of thing. I mean, you had the likes of J Live, Brainwash 2000, Laster, very young G Dep before he got signed to what's that album, to Bad Boy Records, Mr. Voodoo from Natural Elements, Company Flow, Shades of Brooklyn, Elder Head Toucher, Street Smarts, aka FT Fuck That, Residue, Godfather Don, I mentioned before. I did a introduction video for him as well. Brain Six Mob, who was affiliated with Group Home and all them cats. Chalk Clear from Toronto and from T-Dot, and Fitz Bundy, was part of, like, affiliated with Black Moon and all them cats, like a Dysfunctional Family, DJ Bizarro and all that whole Bushwick, collective and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. So I had to mention that because I felt like that was important to mention that. But even though that was not really an official album, it was more like a mixtape. But he did put it out in 97. He had a CD. And that one was a little hard to find. It's a little expensive. But because of that, I don't have it. I wish I did. But because of that compilation, I want a mixtape rather, it introduced me to those artists I mentioned before. Because before I didn't know any of those cats. So, and I'm talking, this is like back in like 2002 when I first heard that. And then in that same year, 1997, he had dropped, Gangstar had dropped their first single off the upcoming album, Moment of Truth, with You Know My Steez. So that single came out in 97. Now we didn't get to 1998. Now we dropped what most people consider to be their magnum opus, with Moment of Truth. So the crazy story with that album is that Guru was going through some stuff right there. They broke up for a little bit due to Guru with his he was an alcoholic. He had a big drinking problem. that pretty much turned off Primo, that kind of thing. So he kind of like, alienated himself. He started working with more outside work. He's worked with Jerry the Damager, he worked with Biggie, worked with Group Home, and people like that, and among other things, like a lot of classic stuff throughout the mid '90s. And then around that time, Guru was facing 5 years for a gun charge, and so legend has it, like in the album cover of Moment of Truth, you see Guru and Primo in like Guru Gangstar shirts. They have the judge, and Primo said that was like a real thing, like they actually came in the court like that, and that's how that came about. So they made a deal with the judge, and that's how the album Moment of Truth had dropped. So I thought that was pretty interesting. The singles of this album, like I mentioned before, is You Know My Steez and The Militia. Those are the two singles of the album. Standout tracks for me, Work, Royalty, Above the Cloud, which everybody loves. Inspector Deck, he caught a body with that shit. It's a setup. Moment of Truth, fucking love that joint. B.I. versus Friendship, The Militia, Rap Grows Bigger, What I'm Here For, My Advice to You, The Mall, with G-Dep caught a body on that shit. Betrayal, Next Time, In the Memory Of, fucking love that shit. So Moment of Truth will be considered my third favorite Gangstar album. I know that's probably blasphemous for some people. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, it's not a bad. I love the album. I just hold Hard to Earn and Daily Operation to high regard. To me, that's me personally. So I ain't mad at that, And then in that same year, 1998, they had dropped a song called Half and Half, which was on the Blade soundtrack. And then followed to 1999, they had dropped the full clip, A Decade of Gangstar, which is a very, very dope album. It's a compilation. It's like a greatest hits, and it has like some exclusive tracks, some like B-sides, and some songs that, some unreleased joints and some new joints, for that time period. So, yeah, dope album. And it has a lot of the album cuts and that kind of thing from like previous albums, and like I said, some like unreleased stuff and some B-sides, like that was only like 12-inch like B-sides and that kind of thing. So definitely worth having. I do have that in the collection. Standout tracks to me, I'm about to go with Full Clip, Discipline. Fucking love the beat for that. Shit is dope. Jazz thing that I mentioned before, that was on the Mo Better Blues soundtrack. All for the Cash, that's a new track. Half an Hour, as I mentioned before, which was part of the Blade soundtrack that came out in '98. The Question Remains, which is a funny story with that song. So that song originally, I think, was recorded after or around the Hard to Earn era, like the sessions. So what happened with that song, so I mentioned before when Primo was driving to Houston, from Houston to New York, and he got caught in the rain. That was one of the records that is a Bob James sample actually, and it got caught in the rain, and like the paper got stuck to the record. I could relate to that because I have records like that. So he tried cleaning it up, but just couldn't get the static. So how the record was going, he had to chop the sample, and when he chopped the sample, you hear like the static, and that's how the song sounds. It sounds so fucking dope. So I really enjoyed that. So that was definitely dope. Definitely sounded like something that could have been on Hard to Earn, but it was recorded during that time, but it didn't make the album. There's another song an honorable mention. It's a song called Dough in Advance. That's another dope joint that was recorded around the Hard to Earn sessions as well. So I had to throw that out there. Credit is Due. Oh my god, love that joint. That was the B-side to Lovesick, from the Step in the Arena album. Love that song, Credit is Due. Love the beat for that. Shit is dope. Love the drums. And So What's Up. Singles, like I said, Half and Half, Full Clip, and Discipline. Very dope shit right there. So that was 1999. Now, we didn't get to 2000. 2000, Guru had dropped his third installment of Jazzmatazz, Volume 3, Street Soul. So with this one is different from the first two. This one he delved more into like the soul R&B, the neo soul, that kind of thing. Known for the singles Keep Your Worries and Super Love. Those are the two singles of the album. Keep Your Worries was like the biggest single. I actually seen a video for that a lot on Rap City. They used to play that shit on heavy rotation. So that was a great song. That should bring back memories like 8th grade year. So really dope joint right there. Standout tracks to me, Mashing Up the World, Keep Your Worries, and Hustle Days. Those are like the standout tracks. To me, like one of the weaker installments of the Jazzmatazz. Excuse me, one of the weaker installments of the Jazzmatazz series, in my personal opinion. Not my favorite. I didn't really care for that too much. Excuse me, sorry. Yeah, it was okay. Didn't really do much for me. I'm just so spoiled for the first two, and when I hear it, it's like I get what he was trying to do, but it just didn't really work for me. And now, fast forward to 2001, Guru had dropped another album called Ballhead Slick and the Click. That to me was a way better album than the Jazzmatazz Volume 3 Street Soul album. That was like more like kind of like an album like that, you know, he put his peoples on, like the likes of like Crumb Snatcher and, you know, Edo-G, and even though Edo-G, you know, he tried to put on his peoples from Boston, put it on the album and that kind of thing, like his you know, like the affiliates of Guru and that shit like that, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, very dope album right here. I need to get a copy of it. I don't have it. Kind of hard to find. But the standout tracks for me, back to back, Rollin' Dolo, fucking dope shit. Edo-G caught a body with that song. Underground Connection, OG Talk, that's my shit right there too. War Tactics, Revolutionist, No Grease, In Here, and Collecting Props. Those are the standout songs for that album. Very dope album. I highly recommend you guys check that album out. Now, moving on to 2002, they dropped their first single from the upcoming album, The Ownerz, with the song Skillz. Alright? Now, fast forward to 2003, we got The Ownerz, which came out in 2003. Very dope year, in my opinion, in hip hop. A lot of crazy shit, especially with the mixtape era. When this album came out, it was kind of like it was an album that, you know, I think people was not expecting, you know, especially from Gangstar. But I think it's an album that kind of got slept on. I mean, it had some like moderate play on, you know, in the video stations and stuff like that. But you know, like BET, MTV, and, you know, stuff like that. But people were more focused on 50 and DWYCK, you know, Dipset and all that. So this is like one of the albums that kind of got, you know, that got kind of, you know, overshadowed. But I remember back in 2003, when I was in New York at the time I was visiting. I just moved to Florida the year prior, but I went to New York in the summertime that year. And man, I used to hear people in the block, like in random cars, playing the song Who Got Guns. Fucking love that joint, man. Dope album right here. Standout tracks for me, Peace of Mind, Who Got Guns, Capture, Riot Act, The Eulogy, The Natural, and The Squeeze. So The Natural was like a bonus track, I think, on the European version, and then The Squeeze was also a bonus track as well. And that song was actually on the Training Day soundtrack. I forgot to mention that. That came out in 2001. But that definitely would have been dope on the US version of the Ownerz. But yeah, so that's definitely my fifth favorite album from yeah, because my favorite, I would say, Hard Earned, Daily Operation, Moment of Truth, Stepping and Reading, and then the Ownerz, and then No More Mr. Nice Guy with my sixth one. All right, so that was 2003. Now 2005. So Gangstar kind of went their separate ways. Guru put out an album called Version 7.0, The Street Scriptures, and he hooked up with a guy named Solar, who was very controversial. He's a piece of shit. I wish nothing but the worst for him. The way he treated Guru, like he was like his bitch and shit like that. It's just like the way he manipulated Guru, even in interviews. Just watching those interviews back then was very cringeworthy. It's like, yo, like Guru's like a different person. Like he Solar made him look like a fucking battered wife, and that was sad to see because Guru, like, he was very talented. He was talented, very confident, machismo, very masculine. He was a smooth brother, but then he was kind of like, when Solar would speak, Guru would just like blindly agree with everything he said. And it's like, what the fuck, like, what is going on? And then like a lot of people were like, was like, what the hell is going on with Guru, to the point where, like, you know, people that was close to him, to Guru, couldn't get in contact with him because he would like manipulate them, tell a bunch of lies, like, yo, Guru doesn't want to talk to you, he doesn't want to talk, he doesn't want to fuck you, just all these fucking lies and shit like that. And now getting back to version 7.0, the Street Scriptures, I only like two songs, False Prophets and Don Status with Style Speed. And that was all produced by bitch ass Solar. And that's that's me just being nice, you know what I mean? But yeah. Not a good album. Then you had the follow-up album in 2007, Jazzmatazz Volume 4, The Hip Hop Messenger, Back to the Future. I only like one song, Look to the Sun. That was like the only song I liked from that. Using the same samples, the Tom Scott, Singing in the Back. So that's like the only song I liked. But other than that, I didn't really care for it. Then in 2009, he dropped 8.0, Lost and Found. It was like the last song they dropped together. Solo fully produced that, and I did not like anything from that album. It was a horrible album. He had him rapping over like club type beats, and it was like, what the fuck? Like, Google would never rap over this kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like with those albums I mentioned from 2005 to 2009, I just feel like he didn't have creative control. It's like whatever Solar told him to rap in, you're gonna rap into that or else, that kind of thing. And it's like, what the fuck? Because I could imagine, Guru, he was a G, you know what I'm saying? But then now it's like, I don't know what the fuck happened. Got into doing some Jedi mind tricks type shit. And it's like, that shit is crazy. And then 2010, unfortunately, we lost the late great Guru and that kind of thing. And then, everybody mourned. And then, people going at Solar's neck, trying to, had pretty much like a bounty, like a bounty hunt on him, like a price on his head, that type of thing. Like the hip hop, community was like angry against him, that kind of thing. And then Solar just disappeared out of nowhere. And throughout that time, throughout like the 2010s, it just seemed like I think the family got the rights to Guru's like his vocals, his unreleased vocals and that kind of thing. And then Solar, I guess, eventually sold the rest of the music, that kind of is acapellas and that kind of thing. So him and they end up getting Guru's family and Primo's always been tight. So I guess they gave him his blessings to work on their next album, which would be called One of the Best Yet. That came out in 2019. Known for the singer's family and loyalty and Bad Name. I'm gonna be real with you. The only song I liked from that album was a Bad Name. The rest of the album I could have done without. I get what they were trying to do with it, but it just, to me, it didn't make, the production was not that good from Primo. And to me, because I felt like Primo kind of lost his touch, in my personal opinion. I would say from Prime 2 and above, and on forward is like when he kind of lost his touch. The first Prime that he did with Royce and 5'9", like I think in like 2013, that one was actually pretty good. But the second one I was just too fond of, and I think from that, to me, was the downfall of Primo's beats and his production. I think it's because he stopped messing with Eddie Sancho, and Eddie Sancho, dope engineer, was responsible to give Primo that thump pause to his beats. You know what I mean? And I know his recent stuff just sounds very flat. And I know him and Nas are supposed to come out with an album, the Nas and Primo that everyone's been talking about since 2006. I'm not really looking forward to it. This is my personal opinion. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I want to give a shout out to my brother Patrick Mir for giving me this inspiration to do this video, because I feel like Guru doesn't get the props that he deserves. Um, yeah, and I felt like I had to do this video just because to serve, you know, the person responsible for me being a fan of hip hop, Primo and Guru, which makes Gangstar. I think it was only right. Let me know what you guys think, guys. I would be interested to hear what you guys think. Let me know. All right.